Let's go.
Yep.
This is Whitey Willauer, and this is the latest edition of Front Up. And I have a guest here that I know very little about, and so this is going to be fun. This is Peter Meerberger.
Meerbergen with an N.
Bergen. Oh,
Bergen as in Norway.
Norway. Are you Norwegian?
I have some Norwegian blood, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you do on the island here?
I've been restoring homes for, I guess, since '71.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And now, with the economy, I'm doing everything.
I mean, yeah,
you name it, and I'll do it.
Have done will travel, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll, you know, I don't mind.
That's
how I started out. I started out with all these little things, and now I'm back to it, and I don't mind at all.
I hope not. Well, what houses have you restored? You got any primer?
28 Milk Street. We lifted that house, and that was fun.
Whose house was that?
Joe and Marie Field.
Okay.
And then 100 Main
When you
Street.
lifted it, what do you mean? You pulled it up?
Well, we had Tuscana come in, and you know, they put the hydraulics under it, and then our crew ended up on Christmas. I remember we were all distraught about losing these beautiful bricks, so I went away with my children, and when I came back, my crew had spent the time through the holiday, and they cleaned all these bricks. They were superbly beautiful. And if you want to see original bricks that were reused properly, you can go to 28 Milk Street. It's the Pink House, known as the Pink House.
Okay.
And that was fun. You know, it's just those kinds of, I like to connect with my clients and the people that I work with.
You weren't doing the interior, you just doing...
We did absolutely everything on that.
Did you save everything?
Pretty much. It wasn't a perfect preservation, but we did renovation, restoration. It's a combination.
How old a house was it, or is it?
I think it's 1823.
So it was before the fire. Yeah.
Yes, and it was, I think, away from the fire enough. I mean,
it would be in Milk Street. They didn't get up that far.
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember, as they said, they stood on the, you know, Pacific National Bank stairs and looked, you know, toward the waterfront, and everything was all but charred chimneys. So I guess he didn't stand around because the Pacific National Bank was in the way. But anyway.
So tell me some more of the things that you've done in this life of ours.
Well, when I got here, it was a kind of a fun thing. I was in line at in Woods Hole, and I think it was '71, early '71, somewhere around March, and there were 4 lines in the Woods Hole building, and I was intending to go to visit my best friend on the vineyard. And I was in again because we arrived early, not knowing what early was. I didn't know what the boat schedules. I just went to this place called Martha's Vineyard, or was heading that way, and I was giving my friend a ride, and we got jammed against the building, and they were starting to load this boat, and they said, "Do you know that you're going to Nantucket?" And I said, "Oh." And there were so many cars, I just looked at my wife and I asked, "What do you think of this?" And we both smiled, and we just kind of got on the Nantucket boat instead.
You're a real washer-shore.
Truly. I mean, we just accidented our way out here.
Yeah.
And I met the infamous Jeffrey Moore on the boat, and his brother said, we had no place to live, and he said, "Oh, I'll talk to my brother," who was at that time working at down at Albert Silva's in the auto body shop.
Slick Al.
Yeah, and exactly. And so Norman, who's now Norman's Auto Body, said, "Well,
Stormin' Norman."
Yes, exactly. And what you could do was, you know, I had no place to stay with my kids. I didn't know. I said, "Well, we can't put you up, but why don't you just go down to the lot across from our, you know, across from Al's, you know, where all the cars are parked and everything."
Yeah.
And he said, "Just go to the back row, don't park with the front end of the truck facing the road." This is in '71, remember?
Yeah.
Because you get busted for camping for anything else. So we did, and we stayed there for 3 days, and eventually we found a room, and we moved up from there, and I ended up working with Carl Borchardt within less than a week. Yeah. Carl, one of the greater men that ever came across this island, and of course his whole family. And I enjoyed working with him. And
what were you doing for him?
Carpentry. He saw that I had done a set of stairs for Dennis Dreher.
Yeah.
And Dennis Dreher was quite the, well, he was a gig-ahead, but they didn't have that name then.
What's a gig-ahead?
Well, you know, like a computer. You know, but he was before his time. He was way before his time. He did a lot of these wire sculptures. They were in the looms. The interesting thing about Dennis is he was an idea man. He couldn't quite find somebody to build the set of stairs that he wanted to do. and they were unique, and it was a helix, and it was all out of scrap lumber. It was a recycle thing. I said, well, I'll give that a try. And Carl Borchardt saw that apparently and found me right away. I was on top of the building over there at, it's now Something Natural. The Flemings owned it.
Sure.
George was renting to Dennis and his wife and a group of us, a large group of people. And I was up there shingling, and Carl said, hey. I said, hi. Said, you would like a job? I saw your stairs, and I said, okay, fine. I said, and what do you charge? And I said, whatever the top going rate is, because I'm tops. And he said, yes, I know, and that was it. And he found me a place to stay for my family and the 2 boys at the time. And we ended up out in Tristram's Land. It was a great time until a thing called summer rent. And I had no experience. I had no idea what the summer rent was. And of course, we didn't have a place after June, and we decided to leave the island, and we went off to Montana. I built a house in the woods in the National Forest.
You're allowed to do that?
Well, yes, I had permits and everything. I had owned property actually in the National Forest. It was a small corridor, and I managed to get 10 acres on Silver Butte River. And there I constructed a house colonial style with an adze and hand tools. I used a saw for 1 hour and 3/4. That was the electric saw, for 1 hour and 3/4 with a table saw. And I did all my windows and doors with that, but it was a beautiful little home. And we stayed there a winter, and another winter on a farm piece of property. But I got lonely for, I'm a Yankee, and a Connecticut Yankee from, King Arthur's Court, maybe. But I came back, and I called the Borchards, and they said, come on down. And so I came back here. It felt like home anyway, and just returned, and just started restoring and working on homes since then. And it's been it's been very interesting. And then in about 10 or 12 years ago, I did take another break from our home, the island, and went off to the Peace Corps.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where did you go serve with the Peace Corps?
Well, it was in Zambia. I had applied in the 60s to get in, but I didn't have the credentials, so to speak, at that time, and reapplied. It was a dream of mine, and I didn't believe in Vietnam War at the time, so I thought that
it was during Vietnam?
Yes, yeah, and so I thought that I wanted to
that's right. You got out of being in the military by doing the Peace Corps.
But I couldn't get in, and
into the
right. Yeah. At that time, I was rejected. I ended up in the Navy, in the Naval Reserves for 2 years. But the bottom line, my heart, I wanted to serve, and I didn't necessarily want to go to Vietnam to serve. I wouldn't have done very well there. I wouldn't be here, I'm almost sure of it. Anyway, I ended up holding my dream for 25 years, and in 94, 95 and 96, I went off to Zambia and really had an amazing experience. And
what did you do for the Zambians?
Well, it's what they did for me and what I did for them.
Well, I know that, but I mean, you had to bring something to the table.
Yeah, that was the best part. I brought my age, believe it or not. Everybody was younger than me in our first group. We were the first group in Zambia, called Zambia 1. Every year you get a number. Every group gets a number. And we ended up being Zambia 1. We were sort of the point guard, and we had to really figure things out. And everything that they had planned, about 75% didn't work. But we figured out at least to get it back.
The plans didn't work.
Correct. But I ended up. We had, you do 2 things. You do a water and sanitation program, which was what they
That's
say
sort of
to
the
do.
primary.
Right. Yeah, very good.
That's where you start.
Right. And what happened is you ride by situations on your bicycle, and you see that they had a problem with a clinic or a hospital. And so I helped finish a clinic that the UNICEF was supporting, and I helped take a school down and get the funds and stuff for the school. And that was the exciting stuff.
That was the second process.
Yes,
at the
exactly.
School.
It's really that's more of what the Peace Corps truly is. And then one of the leaders left. I guess somehow things had a breakdown with him, and I was appointed the leader, which was a little bit of a shock to everybody because I'm a little bit of a rebel. I stick to the truth, and I challenged the Peace Corps people when I was over there, saying this isn't what the American people do. I mean, I came over here because I represent carpenters, plumbers, electricians, accountants, and all my friends and lawyers, doctors, anybody from Nantucket. And I have to look people in the eye. And in a couple situations, I couldn't look them in the eye earnestly. And I threatened the directorship.
No, wait a minute, I'm a little bit lost.
Okay.
What's going on
situation,
here?
One example is when we were training, the Peace Corps said, go out to this compound and help them with their outhouses. If we complete their outhouses with these people, then we will be able to, we'll bring in the nurse and the doctor for that clinic, for that compound, which was about between 5,000 and 8,000 people.
Okay.
And what happened was, we were in training in the very beginning, and they said, no, you have to go to your sites. We're ready to go to sites now. You graduated. You've done your training for 3 months. Now we're sending you out to the sites. And I said, that's not happening. I said, we haven't finished the job. I said, no, don't worry about that.
Oh, part of your training was to build the outhouses, and you haven't finished the outhouses.
Right, and they wanted us to forget about it.
They pulled you off the jobs. Yeah. Who's they?
Well, that's the directors. So I said, I don't think so. And I said, you know, the Kennedy name still exists, and Ted's still here, and I think I'm going to give him a call. And he said,
oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. And 1 week later, I never got the call through. I tried several times.
Blackmail works.
Well, what happened was I was so upset. I couldn't believe that that's where they were. I think that, you know, they were young, they were inexperienced. It was a new country. They're trying to get their program going.
So how old are the people giving you the right and left rudder orders?
They were at least a third of my age or less.
How old were you then?
47 or 8 or something like that.
So they were 11 years? No.
Yeah, they were in their 30s and stuff like that, middle 30s and whatever. But the bottom line is that they ended up, the government shows up 1 week later. And just
which government? The
Zambian government with national TV, and they pull us out of our training just before graduation, and they walk us up there, and there's a big photo shoot, and we're completing the latrines in front of the cameras to let everybody know how good and successful we are. So they managed to turn it around into a positive thing, and I think that they did eventually staff the clinic. But you just have to stand up, and I wasn't standing up for me so much as I was representing America, and it was something that I always wanted to do, and you know, that was very important to me, and it was as important as when I met Steve Slozak on a boat one year, and I mentioned to him that I didn't really want to serve, but I wanted to serve my country, and I said, so I waited 25 years. I had to serve because I think everybody should serve.
Sure.
And you know, I'll tell you something. I'm sure that I saw some tears well up in Steve's face. He is a very good man, and you know, I was really happy because that counted even more than anything. You know, I saw a lot of emotions over in Zambia, but to see my fellow American, a hardworking guy, you know, who had been to Nam, and you know, knew that, you know, when I said I wanted to serve too, it was something that was really nice. It was a conversation we bonded on the boat. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.